Google Street View is one of my favorite features to look back into the past because you can actually look at a street and go back in time in the dates when the street was photographed. But you're limited to like 2008. You cannot go further in the past unless you find historical pictures. But most of the historical old pictures are shattered all over the internet, and I was always hoping somebody would put them on a map, including not only where they were shot, but at which angle they were shot. And we actually found just that website, so today we're gonna take a walk through Prague using Google Street View from the mid of the 20th century. What today is an exchange office and next to it a souvenir shop used to be a shoe repair place or a tobacco sales point. And the street that is now roamed by thousands of tourists every day was used by locals back in the days, as you can see from the picture with the mom showing off with her baby. That's not the only thing that changed on this street. It's hard to imagine that a tram would come back to this street when you look how crowded it is with people. Unimaginable, but yeah, back in the days, tram was going right through here. You can actually still see the remains, not of the tram tracks, but actually of the little hangers that served for the wires that were above. So when you're here, try to find them. Fruit Market is not only the name of the square, but what you can actually see on the historical picture. Fruit and a market, therefore the name of the square. There's one more thing that caught my eye on a different angle, different picture from the same spot, and that is the historical candelabra, which is the city light that had many lamps all around it, and it would shine on the entire square. You would see it on squares all around Prague. There's only 3 left in the city, so try to find them. The name remains on this square, on this market. It's still the Fruit Market, but I think we should just give up and change it to a parking lot because that's what it is. Illegally parked cars, nobody gives it. If we move back on the same street, almost 100 years back, there were no Lime scooters with tourists, but there were trams, cars, locals, and there were no touristy stuff like the Gallery of Steel Figures, whatever that is, but the most famous Czech shoemaker, Baťa, had his store just in that building. Not actually in this one. There was a previous building where Baťa had a store, but then I guess since he was a great mind, he figured, oh, I don't want this old building for my shoe shop. I want a brand new fancy building. And that's what there is right now. But the shoe shop is long gone. On many of these historical pictures, I'll be nostalgic and I'll be like, oh, I miss this and that. Not in this case. If you go back in the past and you see all these tanks that were lined up on this street back in 1968 when the Soviet army occupied Czechoslovakia, and they stayed for a very, very long time. Those are some chilling pictures, not only from the street angle, but even somebody took a picture from above from the building. Today it's a famous party street, so you'll probably walk on it. So this is what kind of history it remembers. Currently, nowadays, this barrel-shaped object, and there's many more obstructing the sidewalk, only serves as an advertisement for some tourist trap exhibition. Back in the days, we had some really cool barrel-shaped objects, like this phone booth. It not only caught my eye, but I guess even the photographers, because he snapped many pictures. It was not this identical location, just not to confuse. It was a street further from here, but it looked much better. I'm not saying bring back phone booths, no, but maybe we can get rid of this. I mean, this belongs to the 90s and not to a civilized world. Oh, did I just call this company uncivilized? Yes, I did. Sue me. When you travel and you want to stay connected with your loved ones, you may find a phone booth to let them know you're okay, or you can use the partner of our video, which is Saily. It's an app for your phone where you can get a local eSIM card wherever you travel to, so you don't have to pay ridiculous fees for roaming and data. Fun fact attached to this phone booth, it is no longer used as a phone booth, but as a public restroom, so it smells really bad here. So I'm gonna make this straight to the point quick. Use the code HONESTGUIDE when checking out on Saily because you're gonna get 15% off. I use Saily when I travel, so you should too. Now let's go back to the video so I can finally leave this booth. It smells so bad. Please bring back hop on, hop off to Old Town Square. No, and I'm not crazy, and I'm not talking about the ugly red buses. I'm talking about this. Imagine that. Back in the days, there were tram tracks running through the old town of Prague, and on those tram tracks was a sightseeing tram that served tourists. It was totally open, no windows. We actually still have that tram in the Prague Transport Museum, so technically we can pull it out and bring it back on the tracks. Once again, I'll be running for mayor in 2075, and this will happen. The difference in the current state and the historical picture you're seeing right now is not that different, but I just liked it because it's from the year when I was born, 1987, and I like that the same pub is still here. I guess the good things remain. Let's be fair, Prague was lucky during the Second World War because most of it was preserved and not destroyed. Therefore, millions of tourists can show up and admire historical buildings like the Old Town City Hall that was partially destroyed actually, but they can definitely check out the astronomical clock, which looks like it was never hit, right? Well, guess what? If you look at the historical pictures, you notice that it was hit quite hard, yet we still managed to preserve it. Let's not tell the tourists they're all watching a replica, okay? If I believe correctly, the idea of an outside restaurant, outside patio garden, is that you sit outside, drink or eat, and you get to see the stuff you came to see because you're outside, you're in front of it. Well, not in today's case, but if we look at pictures from 60 years ago, on the same exact spot, we did have restaurant patios without all the fuzz around, so you could actually see what you came to see. That's today. Hey, where's the astronomical clock? They told me this restaurant is expensive, so I get to see the clock. I don't see the clock. I mean, isn't that the argument to overcharge me 5 times for a beer? We're on the Havels Market, a beautiful spot in Prague, yet we're not the biggest fans of the actual market. But what I'm even less fan of is when people park their cars here. And I've been yakking about it for quite some time. Whenever there's a car, I'm like, this was never a parking lot. Don't you dare park your car. Well, boy, was I wrong. I actually looked at historical pictures from not too long ago, 50, 40 years, and this is what the market here looked like. Just a big ass parking lot, cars everywhere. There was a parking lot sign that allowed only residents to park here, which also shows you the scale of how many residents actually lived here 50 years ago. Not anymore. The biggest street change on the picture you're seeing right now is that what nowadays is a Swarovski, back in the days, was fruits and vegetables. By the way, an item that is almost impossible to buy nowadays in the touristic center of Prague, so no wonder it was replaced by Swarovski. But there's one more thing that should catch your eye in the picture, and that's an advertisement on one of the lampposts that advertises a circus. Circus Humberto, which is a famous Czech circus, and it was kind of interesting to see a local advertisement in this area. No longer you would come across something like that. The only advertisement related stuff here is aimed at tourists. So if you would see like a circus, you'd be like, who are you aiming at? There's no way somebody from here will go see a circus. You have a circus right here. Weed shop, absinthe, weed shop, exchange office. One would almost say that it looks like it's cluttered with advertisement for different stuff when you look at it, and it was nothing like that back in the days. Well, if you actually look back into the days, it was cluttered even more. But the advertisement was for different stuff. So instead of fake weed, it was for coal. Instead of an exchange office, there was a local little bar. And instead of absinthe, it was school textbooks. So yep, the street changed a lot. If we compare today's state of where I'm standing and the previous from back in the days, it would almost seem like nothing has changed. But if you look closer, you notice that what used to be a window is now an exchange office, actually a good exchange office we can recommend. And it only proves that this street, since it's a heavy business, a window cannot be used for business, but a door, a store, that's what you want, and there are more examples of that. Transitioning into the past, we see yet another house that was just a wall, but then they added a hall to put in an ATM. If you're curious where the next one is, it's literally just around the corner, like in the same building. But notice something different in this picture, and those are the Soviet flags hanging from the windows. It's not that we would love Soviets back in the days, but we were occupied. People were forced to put up the flags. If you didn't, you could face serious trouble. So people were hanging, or the house owners, the Soviet flags, and you would think that Soviet symbols disappeared completely from our country because we got freed of the occupiers. Well, believe it or not, some souvenir shops still sell these symbols, and some tourists are silly enough to buy them and wear them on the streets. The daily life has changed a lot over the years in Prague, and I hate to bring back the tourism versus what locals used to experience here, but this picture of the guy throwing the beer kegs of the truck onto a pillow so they don't hit hard on the pavement is like one of the coolest pictures. And also notice the soldier sitting in one of the windows that is now one of many souvenir shops. This is the Paris street of Prague with all the fancy shops and fancy cars. But if you look back to the past, you'll find an actual fancy car in one of these pictures that I absolutely adore. It's the old Czechoslovak Tatra car that looks just amazing. And there's many other things that should be noticed in this picture. Not only the beautiful car, but also the beautiful tram. As I mentioned before, trams were on almost every street in Prague. And if you look further out into the distance, we can't really see it over the trees now. There he is, Stalin, the Soviet dictator, murderer. We did have a statue of him with other people standing behind him in the line here in Prague. We still refer to that spot as Stalin, even though he's long gone. But I really love the picture. We've only turned around on the same street, different angle. And when I saw this picture, I was like, where is that? I actually hesitated for a second because I was lost. I didn't see the grown trees that I'm used to on the Paris street. So I actually thought that this photo was misplaced on the map. It was not. The picture is taken exactly from here. In the background, you can see the church towers, you can see the old town square, and you can see how wide the street actually, I felt like saying was, but no, how wide the street is when you get rid of the trees and the cars parked on the side. When I saw this picture, when I looked it up, I was like, where the hell is that terrace? I wish I knew the exact location, even when it was pinpointed in the map. I never saw that. And then I realized it's atop of a building where I actually have access to, because there's a co-working space that me and Honza use in this palace, Palác Ara. And really, this was not a terrace or just a terrace back in the days, but it was a coffee/restaurant, bar place. Not anymore. I couldn't look up actually any more information what kind of bar or restaurant it was. Nowadays, it's our private offices. Even we had to, make some nice faces to some people to let us on this terrace, and our breath was taken away with the views. Unfortunately, you will not be able to get here. I am sorry. That's why we're sharing these views with you. But if you become a member of that co-working space, in the summer they have morning yoga here. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we have videos of that. It's pretty cool. I can imagine this is a quite relaxing spot to be. And in the maps with historical pictures, I did find many pictures overlooking the rooftops of Prague. And I was thinking to myself, not much has changed except for all the satellite dishes and antennas. But please go to the website, I'll link it below, and look around your neighborhood, your city, because that's the part that is the most fun, looking around your street and what has changed there. I hope we gave you some peek into how Prague has changed through this window to history. If you found something interesting in your neighborhood, in your city, on these maps or in historical photographs that are worth looking at, link them in the comments. Or if you're a tourist that have been to Prague, or you have been to Prague in the 90s and the 80s and you have pictures of that, share them with us. I'm really curious what Prague looked like in the past through your eyes. We were the Honest Guys, or we are, Honza, Janek, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.